What's up guys, this is my home studio. Let's check it out. So I've been producing and mixing music for the last 9 years, and this room has gone through many significant changes in those 9 years. Most people that start the recording journey start small and acquire more gear and knowledge along the way. It has definitely been a humbling journey to say the least, but I'm grateful to say that I have finally gotten my studio the way that I want it to be inside the room that I'm working with. Starting with Acoustic Treatment. I built these panels with some help from good friends. All we used were some 1x4s, rock wool insulation, and fabric from Joann, specifically cotton and polyester fabric. Building panels is actually easier than you think, and it's also a super budget and cost-effective way to get acoustic treatment. I can't remember, I'm pretty sure it's 12 or 13 panels. Costs about $500 to make, versus if you bought those already made, you'd probably spend well over $1,000. I bought this diffuser from an Instagram account named Zone Drums. He makes diffusers, like aesthetic studio panels and other like furniture with lights and stuff, so I'll put a link to his website below. Moving to drums, I have a used Orange County drums and percussion kit I got off Guitar Center a few years ago. Originally it was a 4-piece kit, but I bought an extra rack tom, making it a 5-piece. The tom is actually a pearl tom, it's not a matching pair, so it's a little out of ordinary. For my crash cymbals, I use a Sabian 16-inch AAX concept crash, a custom Zildjian 18-inch fast thin crash, a Sabian AAX frequency crash 18 inches, and 14-inch Sabian AAX frequency hi-hats. I also have a 17-inch K dark thin crash. I use 2 primary snare drums. One of them is a steel pearl 14-inch utility snare drum I got for like 125 bucks. Sounds awesome. And then I also have a 14-inch Mapex steel tomahawk, which was also another cheap snare drum, but definitely gets the job done. My makeshift timbali is actually a Chad Smith custom pearl snare drum with the resonant head taken off of the bottom. Let's move on to microphones for the drum set. For the snare, top and bottom, I'm using an Audix i5, and then I'm using a D2 for both rack toms, and then a D4 for the floor tom. I'm using a Mojave dynamic microphone for my timbali. I'm using an Audix i5 for the hi-hat, and then I'm using a pair of AKG 414s for my overheads. For my kick drum, I'm using the AKG D112, and then I also have an old Bugera amp that I turned into a sub kick. Moving on to my guitars, I have multiple guitars. Some of them are actually friends that just left their guitars here and I use them from time to time. But for my main guitars that I own, I have a white Schecter Nick Johnston Signature Series modeled after a Fender Stratocaster. Then I have a Fender Telecaster. I have a Hagstrom Ultra Max, one of my favorite guitars. I have 2 Taylor acoustics. One of them is model 110E, and then the other Taylor acoustic is a 214 CE. Last but not least, the black sheep of the bunch, I have an old 80s Hohner 5-string bass guitar. The amp that I use is a Fender 68 reissue, and I absolutely love this amp. I also have a Lunchbox amp. It's a Yamaha THR 10X. This thing packs a lot of punch for the size of it, and it has some amazing tones to go along with it. All right, my favorite part, let's move on to my desk. I am using a Danger Fox 24U mastering style desk. This is a company out of Texas, and they do amazing work. Super clean, super versatile desk. This desk is definitely set up perfectly for anyone that is owning a home studio and has some outboard gear that they want to use, and it has super good cable management. My audio interface is a Cranbourne 500R8. This interface is also a 500 series chassis and summing mixer. I run all my drums through a snake, and that snake goes into the outputs of my patch bay, and then half normaled into the inputs of my Cranbourne interface. So let's go through each channel I have on the Cranbourne. Channels 1 through 8 are all preamps. Channel 1 and 2, I'm using 2 API 512C, and for channels 3 and 4, I'm using the SSL 6 channel, and then channels 5, 6, and 7, I'm using the Camden preamps made by Cranbourne, and channel 8, I'm using a Rupert Neve 511 pre. The Cranbourne also has insert points, and I run those insert points to my patch bay, so if I want to record on the way in with one of the two compressors I have, I can do that. I have an ADAT expander to expand the amount of channels I have. The Cranbourne 500R8 at 48 kilohertz sample rate can record 24 channels simultaneously, so I expanded the Cranbourne with a Ferrofish Pulse 16. The Pulse 16 has 16 inputs and 16 outputs. All inputs and outputs of the Pulse 16 are going into my patch bay, so I can route my outboard pre's as needed. I have two stereo outboard pre's going into the Ferrofish. The first one is my Stam Audio 1073 clone. Love this thing. And then my favorite mic pre of all time, an Audioscape Golden 58.2 preamp. I have two outboard compressors. The first one is an Audioscape V-Comp Plus, and it's modeled after a vintage gate style compressor. The second outboard compressor I have is a Stam Audio 1176D, and it has a switchable tube output. My main vocal mic I'm using is also by Stam Audio, and that is a clone of a Neumann U87. I have a whole video showcasing that microphone on the channel. I'll put a link above if you guys want to hear what it sounds like. On to my monitors. As my main monitors, I'm using a pair of Genelec 8010As. These are the smallest monitors Genelec makes. And I'm also using Kali Audio's IN8s. The IN8s are three-way monitors. The only reason that I use Genelec's as my mains is because after mixing on both of them, I've found that I've gotten better mixes with the Genelec's. I think they're just more accurate to what you're supposed to be hearing in your mixes. But it could also have to do with placement as well, which is something I probably need to address with my Kalis. But I also go back and forth between the Kalis and the Genelec's just to see how my mixes are translating. For my monitor controller, I'm using a Drummer CMC2. I'm able to plug in the outputs of my interface, two pairs of monitors and a subwoofer, and have full control over everything. I can switch on and off the A and B monitor, turn off the sub. It's a pretty simple and versatile monitor controller. The only keyboard I have is a Roland Juno VR09. This is mainly an organ keyboard by Roland, but they also have the same patches as like a Roland Juno or something like that. My MIDI controller is just a simple Akai MPK Mini 25 key. I also have a nice little storage cabinet that I put all of my mics, my clips, my camera gear, and to just get rid of some clutter in this room. Alright guys, that is a wrap. I'm super grateful I have this inspiring and creative space to do what I love. It took some time to get it where I wanted it, but I'm very happy with the setup I have. I hope you guys enjoyed this little tour of my home studio. If you guys have any questions regarding my setup or the gear I'm using, please feel free to leave a comment below. Also, smash that like and subscribe button. I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.